Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly radio show about the current state of Ultimate. I'm the host and the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Ultiworld senior editor Keith Rayner. We are about a week away from the start of the national championships. It's been an extremely hype club season. Hoping it keeps going in sunny San Diego. And Keith, we got Field Pass coming back in a big way. We're going to be streaming, I don't even know how many games. I guess I could do the math. It's going to be like 50, 60 games or something. We'll basically be able to capture all of the quarterfinals again, as we did last year. And it's just, to be able to get almost all the bracket games is so awesome.
It is. I mean, that is like the round when you're the most taxed. It's like, okay, this is when the games matter the most. And yet this is the one where they all happen at the same time. At least USA Ultimate has staggered some of these around. So we also get, even if you're there, even if we had a traditional setup, you would still see more than you did once upon a time. And than you do at many tournaments. But now you're really going to get the full goings on experience.
Well, Keith, we need to check in. Very important. Music League. We've got the Ultiworld Music League going. We're into round 3 right now, I believe, of 5. And right. It's air piano theme this week. How are you feeling about the submissions?
I think we did solid. Like, it's a fun playlist. I don't know if I necessarily love this prompt. I saw some big love for it though. So I think people have really enjoyed it, and that's good. There are definitely some submissions and I'm like, good piano does not equal air piano. There's got to be something exciting and fun that gets your fingers
Anything
going.
Slow that's like kind of like somber piano music is never going to be air piano.
Yeah.
There's some auto zeros for me in this list, but
there's some misses.
There's some classics misses. Too.
Shout out to the one that stood out to me is like a big miss is Superstition by Stevie Wonder.
Because the bass line is what you
right,
is
but
what you
who is
play.
ever doing anything but air playing the bass? Like, no chance.
I don't know what was going on there. The San Francisco 49ers are the best team in football, Keith. I'm loving life. Just if you're a Cowboys fan, just unsubscribe.
They're America's team. What can you say?
America's team. I've hated the Cowboys
like
since I was like 3 years old.
If you look at the stupid the island games, the showcase games of the NFL, I feel like New York is America's team. Why do I see the Giants every week on Sunday night and Monday Night Football? And who wants to watch this crappy team?
They're so bad. It's just terrible. I want to quickly note the Olympics. The LA Olympic Committee came out and gave the list of sports that they are expected to be adding. I mean, basically, it's a done deal. There's like a final approval vote. There's all these kinds of processes that they go through. But the list is, and this again is for 2028 Los Angeles Games, baseball and softball, cricket, flag football, lacrosse, and squash. Now, this is a new wave of people being upset that Ultimate is not in, even though we knew Ultimate was already out of the running as of last summer. So, Keith, I'm curious for your thoughts on the sports that did get the call up to the Olympics.
Look, these sports are all just bigger and more popular internationally, I'm pretty sure, than Ultimate. Some of them feel incomparable to where Ultimate is at. So, congratulations to the many athletes. Some of them are a little boring. It's like, did these people really need the Olympics in their life? Does baseball really need that? I don't know. Yeah, but it's a
massively popular spectator sport in Central America, Japan, and the U.S.
You get the sense, somebody brought this up in our Discord, but they're like, wasn't part of the direction that Ultimate was supposed to be going in that it's a mixed gender sport. It doesn't take a lot of players to play. Hey, let's push Ultimate Fours. Let's try and get stuff in. The sports that got in do not fit these criteria or whatever.
It goes to show you that all of these criteria are just purely made up optics. And what they put into the Olympics they either think is like young and hip and going to attract younger viewers because like the Olympics have a demographic problem, or are massively popular and have huge amounts of money backing them. Now, how squash got in? There was a good comment over on the Ultimate subreddit. Cricket is a big time sport. This is from Frisbee Duckwing. Cricket is a big time sport with crowds of 90,000 plus spectators. There's even a new cricket league in USA with rich Indian investors. I mean, cricket is enormous outside
Massive.
of the United States. Like, it is just huge in like Australia, New Zealand, the UK, India.
Places that are connected to the British monarchy historically, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I mean,
Right. Lacrosse is a top 6 sport in America with indoor and outdoor leagues where games average 10,000 fans. I mean, like, again, compare this to the AUDL, right? Flag football is essentially another version of America's most popular spectator sport. Yes, and the NFL is spending lots and lots and lots of money, millions of dollars to promote flag football and help get it into the Olympics. And then there's squash, which proves the Olympics committee members can still be bribed.
yes, yes. Look, I mean, hey, we don't have any money. It's not that popular internationally. It only recently does it really even been competitive internationally. Like, I'm so far from feeling like the Ultimate really had a shot at being the Olympics. So like, this isn't even disappointing.
That is the thing. I feel like 10 years ago, it was like, this is like a hopeful pipe dream, like 50 years from now. That's what I'm hearing from people top of the sport. And then it was like, well, we got a meeting with the LA 2028 people and they went really well. And they had a long meeting and, you know, Frisbee culture in the Southern California is a thing and all this like positive signs. And now I'm hearing like, okay, like a 1 in 3 shot to get into the Olympics. And I'm like, wow, I mean, this is an amazing turnaround. And then we got totally blindsided and they dropped Ultimate before even the final round of consideration. And so then I'm like, wait a minute, no, like this, there was never a hope. The sport's way too small. We never had a hope. And I'm not saying that I think a lot of people are going to look at the push to try to get into the Olympics as a complete lost cause, waste of time and money, and what a disaster. But I really don't look at it that way. I think there are a lot of good things that have come out of the efforts to kind of improve the infrastructure of our organizations and push for more professionalization in a lot of ways. And while I think there have been missteps, I think that, you know, it's shocking that it's taken this long to get to the point to realize that like, hey, no, we really need to invest a lot of resources into developing our youth play around the United States, which, I mean, Keith, you and I have been talking about this for like literally forever. And they're finally really investing in that at USA Ultimate now. I don't know why it's taken this long to get to there, but I don't think that all of the Ultimate push stuff is completely like throw it out and down the drain.
I do think though that it fits along with. I think that you're going to see a new direction from the strategic plan. You know, I think that legitimacy, while not actually in the bulleted list of things, felt like that it was the number one priority. It's how do we build legitimacy, and a big reason for that was the type of growth with formal existing sports organizations like the IOC and like ESPN. You know, that those were supposed to be the targets because they were our ticket to more revenue, bigger stages, more participation, explosive growth. We were trying to hit the home run, and it still stinks to see somebody else rounding those bases while we're stuck in the dugout.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, like this is pushing us back into the internal investment in the sport that I think is required for us to ever get to the hypothetical future of an Olympic, appearance. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's taken too long to get to this point, but at least we're here. And maybe this will help people pull in the same direction instead of having the fractious relationships that seem to exist around our big organizations around the country and the world.
That feels like more of a pipe dream than that feels like more of a pipe dream than making the Olympics. Maybe 50 years from now, we'll have reduced the fractious
But I mean, come on, like USA Ultimate, like just stop antagonizing the local discorgs that drive the sport forward. I don't understand it.
If you want to see a sign of progress, Charlie, the other day, some Instagram account, some content aggregator or whatever made a video featuring some clips of Ultimate stuff that if you peruse social media for Ultimate, you've seen many times before. It's Elaine Suzuki laying out. It's Nick Vogt with that just infuriates me every time Nick Vogt's layout when they're playing in the football stadium.
Like totally gratuitous one.
It's so incredibly gratuitous. It makes me so mad that this is considered like one of the most marketable plays in Ultimate. It's absolutely brutal. Stabbed to the heart every time. Well, that content aggregator had only one clip of a dog in it. So there's your progress. We're down to just one single clip with a dog in it.
That's Keith, you have a note in our show notes here. Look back at our regionals bid stealer teams.
Yeah, I didn't want to forget about this because I feel like sometimes we do this. We come up with a fun exercise and then we never revisit it ever again. So you and I drafted teams that did not earn bids. We drafted teams of teams to potentially steal a bid from the non-bid earners. So I want to go back and look at that. And I did that, Charlie, even knowing that your team won more bids to nationals than mine did. But I still thought we should revisit it.
You're the bigger man, Keith.
Yeah, Charlie gets the win with Lawless and your last pick, Darkstar.
Darkstar coming through.
Charlie had Sunshine, Lawless, Moondog, Toro, Ramp, Tanasi, Madmen, and Darkstar.
Most of those didn't come close. I feel good about my strategy to pick the two Southwest teams, though.
There was one flaw in my strategy, and I feel like I'm going to learn from this and grow and never make this mistake again, which is counting on any Canadian team. Like, what was I thinking? My first two picks were General Strike and Phoenix. I pick Iris in the back. Like, no, Canada, we have beef, bro. I got beef with you right now. My only bid earner was Shine, who I got in the third round. So I appreciate you, Shine. But I had Scorch, Loco, Love Tractor, and Starling in addition to the three Canadian teams. I would have been better off picking Buzz Bullets, man, than these teams.
Teams not even here had a better chance than the Canadians.
God, I feel like such a sucker.
We're gonna get into our mailbag now. Next week, of course, will be our Nationals preview show. We'll do that live. And looking forward to that. We'll let you know in the Discord when that's going to be. But today we're doing some mailbag, and we get a good chance to catch up on questions heading into nationals, after regionals. And Keith, I'll let you go ahead and grab the first letter.
All right. Well, our first one comes in from Marvin. If the EUCF winners got a bid to the national championships of the USA Ultimate, what pot would you put them in for seedings?
Ooh. Okay, so our three EUCF winners are Clapham from the UK in Open. In mixed, it was Deep Space from the UK. And in women's, it was Shout from Italy. So which pot? Interesting question. I think Clapham would be a pot 3.
That seems right. I think they'd be like very close to the border between 2 and 3. But I think ultimately, it's a hard line, so I think they'd be in 3.
Shout. I forget what Shout did at WUCC, but they feel like they would be also pot 3. Like, I think they're definitely better than the bottom quadrant of teams, but it's hard for me to see them being anywhere up near that top, 6 that fills out most of 1 and 2.
They finished 24th at WCC,
Oof.
which is just behind Nemesis and Nightlock. So yeah, I think they're
maybe
close
they are
to
pot
the 3-4 line. I mean, they finished behind Parcha and just above Pop. So they're right in the middle of like those pot 4 teams. I think again you get some credit for winning UCF. So like maybe you could put them at the back end of pot 3, but you're probably talking about the top.
No, I think
4.
you're right. I think you're right, pot 4. And I think the Deep Space team would definitely be pot 4.
Agreed. Yeah, they were There's no US teams behind them, but because all the US teams were at the top at WCC, but they were behind Union for point of reference.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's just the quality of EUCF is like if you did a Elite Select Challenge.
Yeah.
Like that's where you're at. So that doesn't mean there's not some great games, but it's not at the level of USA Nationals. All right. Let's go to question from Sean. Which teams in each division would be the most likely to pull a Bravo and win the tournament despite not being a top 4 seed this year?
I feel like top 4 seed is not a stringent enough restriction. You know? Like, you're probably just going to pick on the 5 seeds mostly. I don't even know. How do we even talk about this? Is Machine the 5 seed? I guess they were the actual
I think
5
by
anyway.
pot. I think by
is
pot.
Crocs the 5 seed or is, I don't know anymore.
Was Bravo was a 3 seed in their pool, right?
Yes, they were
because
they were the
lost
number
to double wide.
I think were they a 2? I feel like they were number 8 overall.
I thought they were number 9 overall, but they might
They
have
might
been
have been number 9. They might have been 9. But yeah, let's say someone who's not like a top 6 or top 7, like that feels like a more appropriate line to feel like a Bravo.
I'm gonna check the
6 feels
yeah,
like
Bravo
you're
was the
getting
8. You were right.
beyond the
You were
clear
right. Bravo was the
contenders.
8, and they went 1 and 2 in pool play. They lost to Goat and Truck, so they limp into pre-quarters and then they win the tournament. It's so crazy. What a run!
Okay, so looking at these teams, I mean, do I need to do pot 3 or 4, or can I pick like
You can pick from
back-end
pot
teams
2,
from pot
but
2?
I think you can't pick mixtape.
Yeah, or Brute Squad?
Is that fair?
Like, I feel like
Sure.
those are so obvious. In men's, I think, man, it feels bad, but I think it might still be Rhino. I guess you could probably make a good case for Dig or Ring, and obviously Bravo's still there, but Rhino feels like it has a lot of the similarities with where Bravo was at last year, and you just know that the talent is there. You've got some winning experience now with Free Child in the mix too. So I think I'd make it Bravo, but it's very unclear. I think there's a whole crop of teams that feel like they are equally situated to be the upset team.
Ring is in the traditional 8 seed slot and just has that same energy. I mean, Ring has kind of the year Ring won the tournament, they kind of phoned in the regular season. What'd they do this year? They phoned in the regular season. They always phone in the regular season. So the thing is, like when you look at the talent, they got a lot of the same skill players that they had when they won the tournament 2 years ago. So they definitely are a candidate. I mean, is Bravo still a candidate to do another Bravo thing?
I've been kind of banking on that all year, of them like having being this high variance, high ceiling team that if they string together the results could pull it off again. But that's mostly informed by the way that they were playing like at the US Open. And I don't know if we've seen them quite actually show that ceiling. I am concerned about how regionals went. So I'm not sure that I feel like they're maybe at the back end of that group.
Women's is really tough. I think who could catch fire and win the whole thing? Traffic, I guess, would be the team I would look at. But it's just so hard to see one of the top teams not winning.
Are you are Bent or Sixers, are they viable picks here?
I think so. I thought about Bent, but I don't know that Bent has the horses to go through the bracket and win 3 big games in a row.
And a real lack of big game experience.
Yeah.
They got some of their
mixed-
imports have brought that in, but
Mixed, I'd say Noise.
it's got to be Noise. If you count Exist, maybe you buy that Exist still could be the team that we saw last year. But those are their true candidates in my mind.
What's next?
All right. Our next question, since we're talking about seeding, Steve asks, which teams look like they have been helped or hurt most by the move to the draw system for nationals?
I mean, I think we already kind of had this conversation. I would basically say the 1 seeds get the worst deal here, just in general. Look at Pool A. Like, Truck gets Ring and Bravo and Darkstar. Like, that's a way worse draw than they would have gotten in a traditional format. I think, Amp catches the L big time in Pool C with catching Mixtape, Noise, and Hybrid. I mean, that's just like the random drawness happening badly to Amp specifically. But like from a structural perspective, it's definitely the 1 seeds.
Well, yeah.
I think Phoenix probably isn't too happy about catching Flipside as their 2 seed.
No, I'm sure they are. And although you're probably not that far off from what might have happened in a traditional, like I could see how a set of results in a traditional seeding could have ended up with Flipside at 7. That's not too weird to me. I think that the points are mostly structural, right? You look at the 1 seed, it's all downside for them. They basically had the weakest pool every year, no matter what. The only place where they didn't have the weakest team in their pot, so to speak, was the 4 line, which they weren't really ever worried about. So the 1 seed obviously only had downside because they basically had the best case scenario going in. Conversely, you look at like the 5 seed, and now the 9 seed. 9 seed used to be trapped with 4 and 5. That's brutal. Yes, it opened up some opportunity. Like maybe they could win the pool. Maybe there's 3-way tie kind of opportunity. But they have a much better chance, I think, of getting out of their pool or potentially even winning their pool, maybe moving out of that 4-5-9 trap that I think was pretty difficult for them. And I guess by the same token, the 16 seed, they basically had the worst draw automatically that they could get. So now that they have some upside getting out of the basement and maybe being able to fight their way into pre-quarters by upsetting somebody. Instead of having to upset the 9 seed, they could beat like the 11 seed. That could be a big difference.
What's clear to me is that Pony rigged the deck with the bingo balls and got the. I mean, how could they ask for a better pool? It's cakewalk season for Pony through this pool of double wide RDU and vault. What's the odds on Pony losing a game in that pool?
Fat minus all of it. You just have to max. You have to push all. You have to full stack the chips if you want even to win $1 back. No,
all right.
I also think though that it's when drawing a comparison here, it's easy to forget about the oddities that happened even under the old system that this smooths out some of the wrinkles for. Before when we used to have remember we used to have regional lock, like if your regional order finish locked you in, that could end up with some weird results. We don't have to deal with that as much anymore. But also I think we overassume how much we know about how good teams are. So when we mark the pool of death, we just think, oh, well, this is clearly going to be the toughest pool. And we're not always right about who that is. So I think this system basically relies on the idea that the teams are not that different from each other in overall potential output. That's what, obviously you're cutting different lines, different slices, but that's my thoughts on that. What's next?
Okay. This one comes from Where's My Bar of Soap? How do your preseason contenders stack up to what you thought of them in the preseason?
Okay. Well, let's look at the. I'm going to use our power rankings, our preseason power rankings, as a proxy for our contenders. So let's start in the mixed division. Here's your top 5 teams coming into the season. 1, New York Exist. 2, Dragon. 3, Mixtape. 4, BFG. 5, Amp.
Wow, Exist was number 1. They have massively underperformed.
Yeah, aside from that and the oddities with Mixtape season, I feel like the general public still buys Mixtape as a title contender.
Yeah, I mean, they won the region.
Yeah, and I think I do too. I no longer think they're the title favorite, but I could certainly see a scenario where they're winning a title. That's a much harder picture to paint for Exist than it was.
Who's the title favorite though then?
I think your title favorite's probably Amp. But I think you're drawing pretty close with Amp Dragon and BFG. To me, those feel like
You're disrespecting Shame. You don't believe in Shame.
I think Shame is next up, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Shame has a really smooth pool.
You do,
and Amp does not. I mean, I don't think I'd necessarily disagree that they're not the favorite, but the fact that you don't even include them in your top 4, I think they got to be top 4. But it's no, very
they're
balanced.
Top 4. They're number 4, I would say.
I mean, in men's, Pony has to be considered underperforming, even when you account for the fact that they were missing people at Pro Champs. And I'm ignoring the early season stuff entirely, but I mean, they got thumped by Truck Stop at Pro Champs, and this is a team that was supposed to come in here and be the greatest team that we've ever seen, and they might still do that, Keith. But so far, we haven't seen that.
No, not even close. And it's funny because I think the men's probably is the most deviation from what we thought in the preseason. We thought Pony was going to be unbeatable, invincible, the greatest team of all time. That hasn't come to pass. Rhino, Bravo, those were your 3 and 4 coming into the season. We're a long way from Rhino and Bravo having the inside track on semifinals. So those are definitely takes that have aged poorly. Meanwhile, like who's the team we were doubt? You know, we weren't big believers in Revolver. We had them at 9, Chain at 11. So those fortunes have turned around since the.
Here's my question
season.
to you: if you had to bet, would you expect that the final results of nationals will hew closer to what we saw in the regular season, or what we predicted preseason with our rankings?
Regular season, I think.
I think so too, but I am expecting positive regression from Rhino, Pony. I don't know what that would really mean, I guess. Them winning. I think they're still a favorite. Do you have them or Truck as your top team in the betting market?
Truck?
Yep.
Pony. I just
right.
The public's gonna love Pony. That's just how it is. Women's division, you know, the top 10 is basically the same. The only place that we really missed was Scandal. We had Scandal at 6. Nobody saw them being a title favorite as, you know, putting themselves right in the Fury mix. You know, we had Molly Brown at 1. We had this whole debate about who should be number 1, Molly Brown or Fury coming into the year. We had Phoenix at 4. Like, I don't think that looks that off their tier 1 team. We kind of thought they might be a tier 2 team, and that tier 1 and 2 would be big 3 and everybody else. But mostly, I don't think we're that far off in women's, except that we had no idea that Scandal could be this team. So those are.
I'm highly compelled. I'm highly compelled by the women's division this season.
Mm-hmm.
I think Scandal, Phoenix, Fury, Molly, and Brute could all win the title.
I buy
and
that.
There's not a super obvious out in front runner. Pretty exciting. What's next?
And beyond
Keith?
that, I think that flip side and Sixers on a good day. I still haven't completely sold on Sixers.
You got to get on the bandwagon. What are you talking about, Sixers?
I think those teams could beat one of those teams. You know,
Sixers.
I think that's
realistic.
realistic.
What about Bent?
I probably should buy Bent. I mean, maybe that's maybe
you should buy Bent.
Maybe Bent. Maybe even who knows? I'm definitely the women's division is in a very compelling spot going.
It is. Agreed.
All right, I got one for you. This is a simple one, Charlie, and a question we maybe have heard before. Is Jimmy Mickle washed from Jeremy Z? I don't think he means bathing.
Jimmy Mickle catching the washed accusations, huh? Look, Jimmy's the same guy he's been for the past 2 or 3 years. He's an incredibly gifted thrower and offensive player who is weak on defense. The thing is, what makes you a little nervous is that we saw him having kind of turnover problems plaguing him a little bit during this regular season. The thing is, I trust this guy at Nationals, and he did have a high profile turnover or two in the truck game last year, but I have a hard time like saying Pony blew that game given what happened to Grant. So I really think what we're going to see is what we always see, which is that Mikkel shows up at Nationals and is a top 3 offensive player at the tournament. So I don't think he's washed, but he doesn't have the greatest profile for maintaining elite form for the next 5 years. I think he could start to fall off in his role if he cannot continue. I mean, he basically has to play like perfectly on offense to maintain a spot, because defensively he's a real liability.
And I think it looks like he's losing some of the dynamism that made him so dominant. You know, he used to be such a big threat downfield. Also used to have these like this truly unstoppable break game that was powered in part by how strong and quick he is. Those parts of his game feel like they're not quite at the level they were. He's still like probably the best deep thrower in the world. But you know that has a lot of value.
Say it. You think he's washed?
No, I don't think he's washed. I mean, our top 25 player rankings are right about to drop, and you'll see that he's in there. But
he's fallen from his highs for sure.
For sure.
I don't think I had him in my top 10.
Time is undefeated, man. You know?
Yep. Father Time. Getting the W every time. All right. Let's see. Will Blueprint and Bent making Nationals pull talent away from Exist? Maybe I should ask myself that question.
I don't get that impression. No. I don't think that, you know, if Exist feels like they're like really struggling, maybe that'll take it away. But I think there's enough talent in New York to have these other teams come around. You know, will it shuffle the deck a little bit? Sure. Like I could see it pulling a little bit away, but I don't think it's going to be a big detractor. I don't think if Exist is going to like fall to being a regional level team and that all the good players are going to go to Bent and Blueprint. Like, I think that particularly Bent was already like around that Nationals level anyway. I mean, we had them, I feel like, as a top 10 team at points last year. So there was that draw was there to play with an elite competitive team. I don't think it's really going to pull talent away. It may make recruiting the people who move to the city a little bit harder, but you're not going to see Exist disintegrate, I don't think.
Yeah, I think at the margins, yes, it'll probably make Exist a little bit worse. At the margins. Because I think there were people who maybe didn't play on Bent or Blueprint because, and well, maybe Pony. I'm not sure there's any guys on Exist who could make Pony. But they might have said to themselves, well, I could play for this team or I could play for Exist. And I'm going to pick Exist because they had such a good run last year at Nationals and I want to go try to get a ring. I mean, they were literally the number 1 team in our preseason power rankings. And good teams, it's easy to recruit when you're a really good team. It's just that simple. So I think if Exist underperforms and Blueprint and Bent don't, just get mopped at Nationals, then I think that, yeah, like at the margins, those teams will pick up a couple players. The thing is, there's a rich talent base in the New York City metro area that can fill in these teams without detracting from Exist. That's the other thing. In the past, you had women's players who live in New York City go to Boston for practice and play on Brute Squad because they didn't want to play on Bent because Bent wasn't competitive enough. Like stuff like that is going to stop happening and it's going to like reshore the talent in New York.
And for elite players, I'm not even sure that just like having a chance to win is even the number one factor. Like there's definitely cultural elements, when you have an established clear culture, then that people want to be a part of, that has a big impact. All right, next question for you, Charlie. Did any teams that were surprisingly upset fall out of the select flight? Does that have any meaningful impact on their potential next season? There's definitely a couple teams that come to mind to me that didn't even make it to that game to go stage.
I mean, I would have to go in and look at all of the regions to actually get the teams that, made the game to go or didn't. But yeah, I mean, look at like General Strike, a team that we thought could win the region. They don't even make it to the game to go. In the Northeast, there were a lot of teams that had high expectations that didn't make that game to go. So, Phoenix, after the season they had, they're not a top select. How does this affect teams moving forward? I don't really know. I think it doesn't help, but it really depends on the trajectory of your program and what your internal expectations were going in. But who are some other teams that come to mind, Keith?
Teams that come to mind for me, Temper. I think that they're probably okay, but Flight, another team that probably would be hurt by not getting in. Omen's another one. I think that they're probably. Yep. I think Omen is the type of team that is negatively impacted by missing. Like, I think that they want the reps against top quality competition. I think they feel like they have something to prove, and losing those reps is meaningful when they're doing their recruiting, when they're doing their season planning. I think some of the more established programs, when you think about someone like GOAT, I think you're less worried about them. That they're going to do what they do anyway. And Siege is probably in the same boat. They're pretty well established. Like, I think you know what you're getting into when you get involved with Siege. But some of these other programs that I think that are like from non-hubs, that they're trying to draw people in and also prove that their program belongs, that their community is strong. Like, I think those teams are hurt by missing. Like the Atlanta mixed teams that missed out, they're fine. It's not. I don't think it's gonna have a big impact on them. But some of these other teams, I think it has a bigger point of pain for them moving forward.
All right. Going back to 2014, this one comes from Will. The chances of a 16 seed winning any pool play game have been 12.34%, 10 out of the 81 opportunities. Will the World Cup draw drastically increase or decrease the chances for Blueprint, Pop, and Lawless, who would have been the 16 seeds in a traditional seeding format? Will it dramatically increase or decrease their chances this year?
Their chances are definitely going up. I don't know how we define drastic, but yeah, they're definitely going up. I mean, before they were in such a tough pool, 4, 5, 9. I mean, they're getting the best team from the 3 line, they're getting the best team from the 2 line, and they're getting an elite team. Like, that is a really tough draw, and now you're not necessarily locked into that. You can move around. So yeah, I think that you've kind of raised the idea that they benefit from playing against in-region competition too, that the lower seeded team has a better chance of an upset when playing in-region. So I guess that's worse for them. They're probably going to get moved out of region in most cases. But I don't think that is enough to counteract the fact that they can get out of what was such a difficult position to play from. You could end up being the 16 seed and end up facing the 12th best team and the 9th best team instead of having to play the 5th and 9th best team. There's a big difference in your chances to get a win. So I think they're pretty sizably benefiting from the new system.
Yeah, from a structural perspective, I completely agree. Let's take a look at the actual teams that these 16 seeds are actually going to play. So Pop is going to play Schwab, Brute, and Scandal. I put their odds at below 12% to win one of those games. I think their odds are like 3%. What say you?
I'd probably go a little higher than that, but yeah, that's probably true. They're probably below 12%.
All right, Lawless is playing BFG, Crocs, and Slow. I put their odds above 12%, maybe significantly so. I'd say they have like a 25 to 30% chance of winning a game.
Yeah, I agree that they're definitely above 12%.
And then Blueprint gets Chain, Machine, and Furious. And I feel like 15%, maybe 20% would be more where I'd put the line, above 12. Mostly that they have a chance to beat Furious.
To me, they're about 12, maybe a little lower than 12. But I think also I wouldn't have put them at 12 in a traditional seeding structure anyway. If they were the 16 seed playing the 4-5-9, there's no way I'm giving Blueprint 12.
Good point. It's a good point. So yeah, I think it's a benefit. It's a benefit because it's like you couldn't really draw up that much worse of a pool for them. All right. Let's see. Who is the most likely 3 seed upset?
Well, it's funny because we talked about a couple of 3 seed teams as the like dark horse title
team. Do they mean like which 3 seed is mostly likely going to win the pool? I think that's how I take it.
Which 3 seed is going to be upset?
No, I think the former.
I mean, I think Noise is in that vaunted pool. That kind of takes some of the shine off of that. So yeah, I think Rhino beating Revolver or Dig feels like the most likely potential 3 seed upsetting somebody above them or even winning the pool. I think that's pretty much a lock in my mind as far as like which one of the teams I would pick.
I think my answers are Rhino, Noise, Traffic.
I think that checks out. I might highlight Shine. You know, I've liked Sprocket this year, but I don't think they're unbeatable. And Shame is the number 1 overall seed has just done so poorly in pool play. I'm not willing to give up that trend. So Shine could be in the right position to benefit.
I kind of picked the best team in each line rather than looking at the pool specifically because Noise with Mixtape and Amp of them ahead is tough.
That's what I was saying.
That's tough. So, all right. Keith, what's the next one?
All right. The next question is, this is good because this is one of your favorite topics. If the fabled hypothetical top select play-in nationals tournament were to happen 2 weeks from now, who would make the finals in each division? Who wins? So basically, who are the best teams not at nationals right now, Charlie?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Absolutely love the question. Let's dig in. I'll start in women's. Your qualifying top select teams in the play-in tournament are Dark Sky, Ozone, Rival, Zephyr, Heist, Iris, Small Batch, and Wildfire. Now, I have no idea how we would seed these teams. Probably by ranking during the regular season.
Random draw.
I think Iris and Wildfire and Ozone come to mind first as teams that would be like in the mix. And if I had to pick one, man, I think I'm going to take Ozone. I really like how close they played against Phoenix. And I don't really feel like Iris did that much in the Northeast. Wildfire obviously has a great case as well.
Let me see. How did I know Dark Sky got washed in the actual game to go. But how competitive were they otherwise? Because they lost to Traffic 15-7 in semis.
This tournament would be so much fun. I really hope they do it.
Well, 15-8 according to USAU. Yeah, they're probably a bit out of it. Yeah, I told you where I'm at on Canadian teams. So even though I might actually pick Iris in a vacuum, I can't pick them. Yeah, I'd probably go. I think I agree with you that I'd probably pick Wildfire or Ozone.
Well, which one?
I'm taking Wildfire to make the run. They're gonna avenge what happened.
Redemption. Yeah. And then they would play against Nightlock at the tournament. They would. Okay, on to the mixed division. Sunshine, Storm, Love Tractor, Moondog, Townies, KC United, Loco, and Parlay.
This is a tough one.
It's a tough one. I think Sunshine, Love Tractor, and Moondog feel like kind of like the standouts. Man, KC United had such a good tournament.
Yeah, that's was pretty convincing performance from KCU.
Yikes! I think I'd take Love Tractor. They've got real nationals pedigree, Keith.
And there's a lot of talent.
They got stuck behind a really good Shame team in a one bid region.
Well, I mean, they also just didn't win their bid, so they were stuck.
I understand.
Okay. I guess you can get stuck through your own mistakes. Anyway, I think I'd also take Love Tractor. I think I've got Love Tractor and Moondog as my top contenders. But shout out to KCU. I'm taking Love Tractor though on talent basis.
Men's side, I've got Sockeye, Beacon, Garden State, Mallard, Sprout, Cash Crop 2, Zizva, and Hip. The real question is, do you take somebody other than Sockeye?
I decline. I would like to take Sockeye.
I'm good. I'll take Sockeye.
I'll take Sockeye over Sprout.
I think I'd take Sockeye over Mallard.
I think that this tournament would be incredibly hard to predict though. Like
I want this so bad.
Think Beacon could be good. Like, I don't know, man.
This would be incredibly compelling television. You have 3 brackets of 8 teams. All the teams that don't make it in get automatic free admission, so they already booked their whole housing, everything. They get a VIP ticket, they get free drinks and food, whole deal. They come hang out in San Diego with their team. Win or lose.
Would players actually want this?
Vacation, baby. What is the fun part of nationals? Is it the Frisbee? Yes. Or is it hanging out with your team in the Airbnb and at the beach?
As spectators, I think it's the Frisbee. Like I think that's why people just don't go, right? If being a spectator with your team is so fun,
they could do this. They could now do this. That's fair. But man, I don't know. The real question is, if you hosted this, would teams sign up and come and play knowing that they have only one chance to get in?
Yes. I do.
See, that's why you do it, right?
Yes.
If they would do it, then why not do it?
Some teams would opt out, but I think a lot of teams would opt in to try. And you know what? Look, you could feel a little more comfortable, even if you're a borderline team, booking those early tickets to nationals, because if you fail at regionals, you might backdoor your way in through the play-in tournament, or at least you'll know there'll be some other friends and people hanging out.
Go hang out either way.
Yeah, well, it'll make it more of an event, but also just more money that we're handing over to travel companies rather than into our own community.
All right, this is another question from Jeremy. What should we make of the 3 cities? So Portland / Eugene, which they're definitely different cities, but I think it's fair for this exercise. New York City and Raleigh-Durham, sending 2 teams to nationals in the men's division. Have teams finally figured out how to properly game the regular season, or do these 3 areas have superior talent?
This feels just like an up year for me for those teams. I don't think that this has some grander trend to it. I think that this is just kind of the way the chips fell. Yeah, I wouldn't buy much into this. I mean, if Sprout wins, are we talking about the resurgence of Boston men's ultimate or whatever? If I don't know, I'm trying to think of another team that would have been a second team out of an area to make it. But yeah, I'm not sure that I think that there's much to it other than just like there's the field is deeper, and so some of these areas that have a lot of good players, they can field 2 good teams.
Yeah, I don't think there's a game the system aspect to this. Darkstar didn't earn a bid. They went out and took it. Blueprint didn't earn a bid. Now, RDU, did they get a little lucky catching pony with a, quarter roster? Of course. But they also legitimately were a good team the whole season and had to get through a lot of other good Southeast teams to qualify. So I genuinely think that the talent level is high in these places. Will Darkstar go to nationals every year? No, they won't. But having a second Raleigh area team and a second New York City team making nationals somewhat regularly is not out of the question. I mean, you look at how good Pony is, for instance, that leaves a lot of players getting cut who are really good. And that means that the second team is good. It's not exactly rocket science.
All right, here's one for you, Charlie. What college would have the best all-time starting 7? That comes in from Will.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. All time? All right. Well, I'll throw some schools at you. You start men's or women's?
Let's start. You can start men's. Sure.
Okay, men's. Colorado.
Yeah.
You know, you're building around Bo and Jimmy. It's a good place to be. Oregon, for sure. Carleton, Wisconsin. Like if you go back long enough, Wisconsin actually puts together an awesome 7.
For sure.
I mean, unsurprisingly, it's the big name teams. At this point, UNC.
I wonder if Brown has had enough just up their years that like they're another team that maybe could
Well,
get
like
in there.
You got
and you get Zip,
JR,
JR,
Fortunat, Mac Hecht.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very good players that have come out of there.
That's a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost assuredly to me Carleton,
Florida
or Colorado. Yeah, Florida's got definitely produced some talent. They don't have quite the longevity though that some of these other schools have.
Tim Garrett, Kurt Gibson, Brody Smith.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically pulling from the one era.
And then
truly great
Bobby Lay.
Right, you add a couple of players here and there.
Billy O'Brien. I mean, they've historically had one or two guys who are really good, even in years when they don't go to nationals, which these days is literally always.
Yeah, but what about Emory though? Justin Burnett, Callahan winner, Byron Liu, Robert Runner. Okay,
all right, you make a case.
There's some nice players who come out of there. Christian and Anders Olsen. Come on, Juice got some talent. Don't sleep. How
about NYU, Keith?
Yeah. Okay. Hit me. There's some studs.
Kai Fong, mixtape.
Billy Katz,
Hussein Carnegie.
Weren't these guys all on the same team?
Yeah. This is the team that screwed up and didn't make nationals.
Yeah, I know. All right. Yeah. I'd be shocked though if it's not Carleton or Colorado to get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah. I mean, Carleton is just ridiculous. Because the top talent has often gone to Carleton. Like the number one recruits in many seasons have gone to Carleton. It would be a fun exercise to really sit down and look at a 7. It would be hard to even really compare. It's like we have 7 incredible players. Like which of these teams wins? I don't know.
Well, this has been done. Do you remember when I think it was called the Big Muckamuck? This was a tournament that was actually put on that was like supposed to be the best.
Oh yeah.
Best college. What was that? Like 2013 or something like that? I don't remember. But this did exist. There was an effort to pull this together. Women's division, sadly, probably
this
pretty
was
similar.
Like some kind of. I remember this like early Skied magazine thing.
Yes,
16 college alumni teams in a March Madness bracket. Open teams that were included that we didn't just discuss were Stanford, Texas, Washington. Stanford had a lot of good players back in the day. It's kind of been a while. True. But you would be able to put together a really nice 7 from history.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about women's. Keith, where do you start there?
Someone's probably going to yell at us if we don't say something about Santa Barbara, right? Like, certainly
on the men's side. Oh, on the men's side. I was like, on the women's side, I was like, yeah, they're like the top of my list.
Side. But yeah, on the women's side, it's going to be a lot of the same schools. I mean, you're still talking about Carleton. You're probably still talking about Colorado. You're adding in Stanford. You're adding in UNC is going to be in that conversation now.
Oh, for sure.
You're adding Santa Barbara. Maybe you're talking about Washington, and you're certainly talking Oregon.
UCLA. Does Cal Berkeley have a good enough team lifetime?
Maybe. There's definitely some very good players who come out.
Because like my knowledge pre like 2011 is pretty hazy.
I still think you're probably going to end up with Colorado, Carleton, and Oregon and Stanford. I think those are your kind of like big 4, maybe.
Santa Barbara, though,
they're right there. I don't know. That would be a tough one. Yeah, I'd have to
San
actually
Diego?
sit down and draw it out. I don't think so. I don't know if they quite have what it takes. How about just Dartmouth? Just like 4 years of Dartmouth. That good. I mean, you're really getting good. Some great players. They're the Florida. Dartmouth is the Florida, which I'm sure they love to hear. Dartmouth is the Florida of this situation.
Okay, let's see. I think we have maybe one more question here. This question has been floating in the Discord and we haven't addressed it, so let's address it. Does tying your mental wellness to your team's results at regionals have long-term effects on your health?
Of course not. I mean, only it does, but they're all positive. Only positive effects. Because now you really have skin in the game. So you'll go out there, get that win, and ask.
Feel like you've truly achieved something in your life?
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't win, you're a terrible failure of a human being.
I mean, I'm not going to say that your regionals finish has a direct correlation with your value to society, but I'm not going to say it doesn't either. So,
oh my!
Everybody, be safe out there.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our mailbag show here. Get in more questions. You can always find us deeplook@ultiworld.com at deeplookpod. We might take some more mailbag on our preview show next week as we get you ready for the Club National Championships. San Diego, man, oh man, I'm so excited for this year. This is the most excited I've been for Club Nationals in a long time, Keith. Definitely since before the pandemic. So, hyped up, ready to go.
Do you want me to rain on that parade for you a little bit?
Oh no. Yeah, what?
Come over to our subscriber bonus segment where I believe we're going to discuss the potential punishments that we may have to do for losing to the subscribers in the regional picks competition.
That we're going to have to get punished. It's ridiculous. Okay. We will discuss in the subscriber bonus segment out the back. Get yourself a subscription today at ultiworld.com/subscribe. For Keith Rayner, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you next week with our live Nationals preview show right here on Deep Look.